Hello, everyone. This is Victoria from Visa Place. We are starting our live session for today in just a few minutes. I'm going to give everyone some time to join us today, and then we can get started. Okay, we have a few more people joining. Thank you. Today we have a live session where I'm going to be discussing a few of the immigration trends for Canada, including express entry. I know a lot of people are interested in moving to Canada and to relocating. I might have some questions for the immigration process, how to get started, what's involved, even any detailed questions on immigration programs. If you'd like to join and post a question in the chat box below, we'd be happy to go over those with you today. I will be having a question and answer period at the end of our session, just to go over all those questions for you. Yeah, Mohammed. Hi, Mohammed and Susan. Thank you for joining us today. Social Dilemma posted a question. That's great. Our team's going to be collecting that for us. Hi, Christy. Thanks for joining. As an introduction, my name is Victoria again. I am a licensed immigration consultant with Visa Place. We have a team here of consultants and lawyers and our legal team who help with your immigration process to Canada. We help from anywhere to permanent residence, work permits, study permits, visitor visas for family members. If you're in Canada or outside of Canada, our website is www.visaplace.com if you haven't been there to visit. If you want to follow along with the latest immigration updates as well, we have our newsletter, which you can subscribe to, our YouTube, which is Immigration Tube, and our other social media channels such as Facebook and Instagram. Hello to Ahmed, Flower, and Jason. If anyone has any questions, feel free to post them on the chat box. Jason, if you would like to book an immigration consultation with us, you can do so as well on our website. That's www.visaplace.com. Mohammed here has a question. That's great. I think Uwase has a question about employment. Mohammed's got a question about immigrating to Canada. That's great. Hi, Jessica. That's a great question. I love these questions. Keep them coming. If you have any questions at all about immigrating to Canada, um, you could even share a little snippet or situation about yourself, who you are, what you do. I can review that with us as well. So Flower's got a great question about permanent residence to Canada and medicals. Just a few more minutes here, everyone, and then we would be starting shortly. Social, I have a question here about the United States, I am an immigration consultant for Canada, so I practice Canadian immigration. We do have team members who focus on US immigration. So I would probably direct you to our website and book a consultation there with one of our US practitioners who can better help you in terms of supporting your family to move to the United States. Any questions about Canada, I would be happy to go over with us. So Margaret here has a really great question. Thank you for posting that. Thanks, everyone. Fatima's got a really great question. Fatima's an English teacher with a master's. If you want to provide more details, Fatima, I can um, help figure out a pathway for us to immigrate. Okay. Okay, so the time is 12:08 now. I guess we will get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Victoria. I am a licensed immigration consultant with Visa Place. Visa Place is a immigration law firm. We're based in Toronto, but we do serve clients all across the world, Canada, United States, and beyond. We have a fantastic team here who you can meet and book a consultation with to figure out a pathway for you and your family to immigrate to both Canada and the United States. For today's session, the focus will be primarily Canadian immigration updates, specifically regarding permanent residence through the Express Entry program. I'll be going over a few of the latest updates with Express Entry, which is a very popular program. A lot of people are interested in that. A backlog, and also they'll be going over the backlog, what's going on with the current applications, and the holdup and the processing times. Uh, as well, we'll be going over the National Occupational Classification code switch. There's a new system that's involved. I know there is a little bit of confusion there. What do I do? How does this impact my application? Um, Looking forward as well into the new year, into 2023, we are looking at the new immigration levels plan. So what is going to be happening in the future with Express Entry? What's going to be happening with all the immigration programs for the upcoming year? And lastly, but not least, there is a rumor about a new TR to PR program. For those that don't know, the TR to PR program, which is a temporary residence to permanent residence program, was introduced last year to help people in Canada immigrate to Canada easier as a result of COVID. There has been discussion about a potential program, so I'll just make a quick comment on that. And then lastly is the question and answer period for us, where I will be going over a lot of these great questions from everyone today. Feel free to post them in the group. Our team's going to be collecting them, and then I will get a few minutes to go over all the answers and help you throughout there. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Really great questions coming in. Okay, so let's talk about Express Entry. Express Entry is one of the most anticipated programs to restart this year for permanent residents. looking before COVID, pre-COVID 19, um, there were regular rounds of invitations for people to everywhere in the world who are interested in applying for permanent residence. Express entry, as we've discussed before, is primarily based on human capital factors. We're looking at your age, education, your work experience, and using that as a baseline for us to be able to determine your eligibility to apply for permanent residence. People who have been following along in previous years or people who have expressed interest in applying for permanent residence or relocating to Canada um, will take a look at express entry first. And what's happened over the last couple of years is that express entry has been on a little bit of a hold, a bit of a pause pattern because of COVID-19 and the inability of people to be able to travel to Canada. uh, the program was stopped momentarily. However, as of July 6th this year, 2022, our our government has basically introduced several rounds of invitation every 2 weeks to be able to invite people to Canada. So on the most recent express entry round on September 14th, we saw folks in the express entry pool with a score of 510 above invited to apply. Now, the number of invitations in each round is very important. The number of invitations will determine the score essentially and what the lowest score of the lowest ranking candidate will be invited for permanent residence. So in this particular round, we were looking at 3,250. The last couple of rounds prior to then have been a little bit lower, but what we are seeing is that each round is slowly increasing. And the goal, I think, for the end of the year is to hit the regular 5,000 number of invitations in each round for express entry. So hopefully through to the beginning of the year in January, we would see regular invitations every 2 weeks with 5,000 invitations in each round, which will bring us to conclude that the point score will most likely be around 460s, high 460s to high 470s, which is more or less um, a regular average for the rounds of invitations. Now, all of these all of these draws are for the all program draws. So they are looking at accepting people in Canada for the Canadian Experience class, as well as people outside of Canada, which is Federal Skilled Worker Program, could be some provincial nominee candidates as well in there. Let's see here. For the new year as well, there are talks about having a targeted express entry draw. So our Minister of Immigration has been looking at potentially being going into the express entry pool and being able to pick and select individuals, specific individuals, and this could be occupation based, it could be education based, who are needed to fill the shortages and gaps in our labor market. This allows us to invite express entry candidates that support needs within our province or specific regions, and to really meet in-demand skills and qualifications. So even if you may not meet the point score for express entry now, I would probably recommend looking at applying for express entry, especially if you have a job that is in high demand in Canada. Um, I think that based on those qualifications, you may be able to be invited to apply for permanent residence a little bit easier than the current score and than the current trend, especially if you don't have super high education or are very strong English language skills. People who are looking to apply for express entry right now are really starting to gather all the documents, all the documentation and requirements to apply. For people planning to do so, I would probably allocate at least 1 to 2 months to submit and gather all the documentation to submit your express entry profile into the pool. Um, in addition to being invited to apply, we are looking at a processing time of approximately 6 months. Now, we're not sure yet if the 6 months is a hard and guaranteed processing time, especially pre-COVID when the processing times kind of hovered below and under the 6 month mark. Some were lower, some were processed much sooner. But of course, the immigration team is trying to reduce the wait time and trying to return back to the pre-pandemic service standards, which is the 6 month for express entry, as well as 12 months for other immigration programs such as family sponsorship. Visitor visa applications we've seen across the board have been decreasing as well too, depending on where you're filing. So I think everything is looking up on the up and up for that in terms of processing immigration and getting everything uh, processed sooner for the applications. Okay, so another aspect to express entry that we are looking at is the NOC system changes, which is the National Occupation Classification. Now, the NOC code is what we use to determine your job occupation. For example, if you're a doctor, or if you're a lawyer, or if you're a paralegal, each job and occupation has a very specific code, and this code is entered into the express entry system to determine your work experience, to determine where your job can fit the labor market needs for Canadian immigration. Previous years, we've had a regular NOC code and system was a 4 digit code, but as of November 16th this year, the codes are switching to a new system. Now, the system will be a 5 digit code, and it follows the TEER system. So the new express entry profiles that people will be entering will be under the new NOC code. Old express entry profiles, as of right now, do not need to make any changes. Some changes that we can see with the new code is that that will new occupations that will become eligible starting November 16th under express entry under immigration programs will be positions such as payroll administrators, dental assistants, nurse aides, estheticians, residential and commercial installers and servicers, truck drivers, for example, and heavy equipment operators. Now, a lot of people who previously had work experience or education in these fields may have not been able to apply for permanent residence. But with the new changes, what we are seeing is that these occupations are being bumped up and they are being considered skilled jobs, which do qualify. Um, with that said, there are other occupations that will become ineligible as well too. We are looking at performers, street performers, program leaders in sports and fitness, tailors and dressmakers, just to name a few. And that those occupations would be within the arts and cultural industries. Overall, most jobs will stay the same in the new category, except with the exception of what I mentioned above. So, depending on what your work experience is, you may want to take a look and see how that's impacted with the new system. And depending on where you are in the express entry process, if you need to make any changes to the NOC code that's listed on your profile. Okay. So, a really big question that we have people asking is what's going to happen at the end of the year this year, and what is going to happen at the beginning of the new year, come 2023. In previous years, we normally might see a pause at the beginning of the calendar year while the immigration minister determines our priorities for the immigration levels for the entire country. Um, Usually, when the express entry system is fully up and running, usually there's no pause between December and January, and we can expect immigration expect rounds of invitations to continue without a pause, which would mean that in the new year, we may see regular invitations, as I mentioned before, every 2 weeks with 5,000 invitations. However, there's a possibility that there may be a pause as well too. I think if anyone is interested in applying for permanent residence, now is the great time for us to be able to prepare and submit an express entry profile, because we don't know what's going to happen. But the way that things are going, everything is looking to return back to normal, and everything's looking really positive as well too. In 2023, the immigration level plans is going to be 447,000, and the target for 2022 was 431,000 for permanent residents. We are very well on our way to achieving that as well too. So approximately from January 1st to July 31st, we were at 270,000 admissions for permanent residents. Okay, and lastly but not least, just wanted to make a quick comment on the TR to PR programs. There has been a few rumors about a TR to PR program coming out, supposed to be released this month, but as of right now, there's no confirmed information. There have been hints in press releases for us that a new potential program might be coming out. However, we would have to stay tuned and see if there are any updates. But as of right now, there's nothing that has been confirmed. However, if TRTPR, if you are in Canada, or if you're applying for express entry, um, at the same time, a lot of the document requirements are the same. So if you want to be ready at the potential of a new program release, I would recommend starting to look at the requirements for express entry and starting there. Okay, so finally, we've got our question and answer period. I see a few great questions here. I am going to go over all of these and help answer them for us. Okay, so someone is a practicing lawyer of the Supreme Court of Bangladesh, aged about 46. Am I eligible to apply for immigration, or which category is best for me? So to me, it seems like you would be a really great candidate for the Express Entry Federal Skilled Worker Program, especially if you have a strong education and strong work experience. I would certainly look at the Express Entry Federal Skilled Worker Program as a start, and see what requirements are needed for you to get started. Next question is, hello, I have a question. I have a question. Is common law sponsorship harder than spouse sponsorship? I want to apply with my partner next year. Is common law sponsorship harder than spousal sponsorship? Okay, so if you are asking this question, you are most likely in a relationship with a Canadian citizen or a Canadian permanent resident. Now, for those of us that don't know, a common law relationship is one where you are residing and living with your partner for at least 12 months at the same address. So cohabitation for Canadian immigration would be, for example, renting an apartment together, and both of you sharing that apartment, splitting the expenses such as utilities and the rent. And the other category of spousal sponsorship, which would be being a married spouse, so getting married and getting a marriage certificate. To answer your question, common law sponsorship is a little bit more difficult in the sense that we have to provide more documentation to support your cohabitation. Uh, it is a little bit more complex in the terms of we also have to show that you are committed to each other, and that you are in a relationship that is supportive of each other as well, and there's a desire for you to be able to immigrate to Canada and live as a partner together. So is it harder than a spousal sponsorship? I would say a little bit yes, but not too much more complex. I think a lot of people do apply under the common law category. So if getting married for you is not something that's going to occur very relatively soon, I wouldn't worry so much, especially if you have been dating for quite some time and we have enough evidence to support your cohabitation together. It's a really great question. Thank you. How much do you charge to help with the application, and would you recommend applying for a certain province for the PNP to get a faster access? If yes, which one? That's a really great question. I would highly recommend that we book a consultation with one of our team members on the consultation team. We would be able to review your specific situation, your personal profile, and determine which would be the best category for you. We could also look at the PMP options for us. Um, from there, we can determine what would be the best program for us, and our team would be able to help share with you our code for our support with your application. Um, Typically, we would look at applying for a federal immigration program along with a provincial program, depending on whichever one would allow for faster processing for you. So we definitely look at all different possible options for us. Okay, so next question is, hi, I lived in Canada from 1998 to 2008 as a landed immigrant. I returned to the US and I'm interested in returning. I am a therapist and I have my own practice. Do you know of any ways I can return? Will the fact that I lived there for so long help? So you lived in Canada from 98 to 2008 as a permanent resident. You returned to the US and you're interested in returning. So that's a really great question. It really depends on your situation. I don't know if your PR status revoked or was canceled, or if you simply just didn't return to Canada. So, depending on that, there is a possibility for us to get you a permanent residence renewal. So, basically, getting your travel document reinstated. However, we are looking at humanitarian, compassionate reasons. For example, what were you doing in the United States? How long were you outside of Canada for? What strong factors made you leave Canada, such as helping a family, for example, or if you had young children that needed to go to school in the United States? These are just some of the things that we can look at to find an exception for you to be able to to Canada as a permanent resident. However, if your permanent resident status was canceled or if it was revoked, then we would need to look at reapplying for your permanent resident status. Now, if you are a therapist and you have your own practice, I think that's great. You are self-sufficient, so we could potentially look at you opening up your own practice in Canada, or potentially getting a work permit with a job offer with a Canadian employer. So those are just a few of the different pathways for us, depending on your actual situation here. Um, okay. I have another question, which is, hi, I'm an English teacher with a Master's of Arts, and I would like to immigrate. Do I qualify both my Ielts and my TCF? That's amazing. That to me, that means you are bilingual. You can speak both English and French. Um, as some of you might know, the official languages in Canada is English and French. So if you are a francophone speaker with a strong English proficiency, you may be eligible for additional points under Express Entry, depending on your language capabilities. So to me, it seems like you are very, very qualified to apply for permanent residence based on your education and your French language skills. Um, I would definitely recommend taking a look at you applying. People who are French speaking are invited to apply a lot sooner than everyone else. So you do have a little bit of advantage to apply if you can demonstrate strong French proficiency. That's great. Do co-ops and internships count towards express entry work experience? If you are applying outside of Canada, so we're looking at your foreign work experience, if you completed your co-op and your internship, that work experience would count towards the federal skilled worker program requirements. However, any work experience that you complete while you're in school, studying in Canada, unfortunately, would not count towards the Canadian Express entry. However, if you are applying under federal skilled worker, that work experience may be eligible. So the answer to that would be it depends. Having a job offer help boost my Express Entry CRS score? The answer to that is yes. If you have a job offer in Canada, if you got an employer that's really ready and willing to sponsor you, that would certainly help us in becoming eligible for Express Entry a lot sooner. Um, A lot of people get confused and they think that having just a verbal or written job offer is enough. However, that's not the case. You do need to have a work permit in addition to the job offer. So you need to be qualified for a work permit. Some of the work permit categories will be a LMIA, Labor Market Impact Assessment work permit, or an LMIA exempt work permit. If you got the job offer, if you get the work permit, you should be getting additional points under express entry. That could be additional 50 points or 200 points, which will help increase your score and secure an invitation to apply for you for permanent residence. Where do I start? No IELTS or TCF. Um, if you are interested in applying for permanent residence, I would recommend starting with an English language test or a French language test if you speak French, and then getting your education assessed. So if you complete a bachelor's degree outside of Canada, a master's degree, or even another diploma, you would need to get that assessed according to Canadian standards and making sure that your education from abroad is similar to a Canadian education. So with those two items, you could immediately start and initiate your express entry profile. And from there, that would also help us gauge um, and determine your eligibility for any of the immigration programs. Is there going to be a new public policy for caregivers to apply for permanent residence, such as the TR to PR pathway, similar to the one that ended in November 2021? That's a great question. So I spoke to you about that a little bit earlier. The TRT-PR pathway is not yet confirmed. It's been hinted at, but we don't have any confirmation yet whether there's going to be a similar program. However, a program that occurs every single year, which would be well, so far, which would be the home child care provider program is expected to start again for the new year in January 2023. Now, this is a very limited program. I believe there's less than 6,000 spots that are available. So, if you have a job offer in Canada as a caregiver or a home support worker, we could use that job offer in order to apply for your permanent residence to Canada. Now, it's a two-in-one application, which means you do get a work permit and a permanent residence at the end. The idea is that we'll get you a work permit, you come to Canada, you work for 2 years, and then you become eligible for permanent residence. If you're a caregiver, there is an expectation that you are able to speak English um, at a basic level, as well as have an education that's equivalent to a post secondary 1 year diploma in Canada. So if you've got all those criteria, you got a job offer, and that job offer could be from somebody that you know, a family that really needs help and is having trouble finding a caregiver in Canada, we could definitely use that to leverage and apply for your permanent residence under this program. Okay. Hi, I'm a math teacher. My wife is an English teacher. I have two boys, 17 and 13, and I am 48 years old. Do we have the opportunity to immigrate to Canada? I would say so, yes. I don't have too much information about your family, but it seems like based on your work experience and based on for you and your spouse, you would make a very good candidate to apply for permanent residence. For people who might not meet the age cutoff for express entry, there's ways for us to be able to get around that. We could look at potentially furthering your education in Canada, for example. You could complete a post-secondary diploma, or often we might even see teachers kind of pivot in their career and do something else, whether that's being a tutor or um, working as a caregiver. And as well, if you have any other language capabilities in French, for example, that would count highly towards your permanent residence application. Is express entry only for workers? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I think per express entry um, is a program. The idea is that you are able to immigrate to Canada and contribute to the economy. However, you do need to have work experience. The federal skilled worker program requires you to have 1 year of foreign work experience. Federal skilled trades If you are working in a skilled trade, requires you to have at least 2 years of working experience in that trade, as well as a job offer or work permit or a certificate of qualification. And then the Canadian Experience Class program requires you to have 1 year of work experience in Canada. So most of it is related to employment experience. You don't have to be currently employed. We could look at past work experience as well in order to qualify you. Next question is, I'm not sure I got what you mentioned about reaching the immigration goal. Are you saying that the number of potential immigrants Canada is willing to accept is reaching its cap now? So every year there is a quota that is published and released for that year. So depending on where we are in that quota, it determines how many how many immigrants Canada is willing to accept per program. So in essence, yes, it's slowly reaching its cap for the end of the year because we are close. We're about 3 months away from the end of the year, um, which means that we can anticipate that for express entry, that's why the number of invitations have been quite low. But come the new year, as of January, with a new quota, which I shared earlier, the number of people who are allowed to immigrate to Canada across all programs. Now that's family sponsorship, economic immigration, business immigration, as well as our refugee program, will be high. And so we're going to see a lot of activity spread out throughout the next year and the calendar year. I hope that clarifies a little bit better. Hi, I'm a caregiver in Israel. I have 6 years of experience. I have done Ielts exam. I also have West Report. Do you have a job opportunity? That's amazing. I think you're super qualified to apply for a caregiver, and you have taken the necessary steps in order for us to get started. Unfortunately, we don't help with job placement in Canada. The best way for you to be able to reach out and research and look into job opportunities would be through either friends and family that you have in Canada or through job placement boards. There are a few great websites that we could recommend: www.indeed.com or indeed.ca. And then there's Canadian Nannies as well. So I hope that helps. I missed the beginning of your presentation. I was an accountant, so I am wondering, do I have to get a job first or do I have to submit an express entry application first? Great question. If you are an accountant, you are most likely eligible to apply for express entry federal skilled worker program, and that is really based on your current and your past employment experience. So the answer to that is no, you do not need to get a job first. You can certainly apply for express entry without having a job. Having a job really only opens more opportunities for you under express entry or by way of work permit. The best way to figure out what your likelihood for success is to book a consultation with us. We can go over everything in detail with you, including your age, your education, perhaps any family that you might have in Canada, and see what your eligibility is. But most people apply for permanent residence in Canada without a job offer. How about the processing time for a self-employed? I am a full-time artist with 9 years of experience and graduated with a bachelor's degree. I wanted to immigrate to Canada with my family. Okay, so for those of us that may not be aware, the self-employed persons class is an economic immigration program. It is specifically designed for people in the arts and cultural industries. So if you're an artist, if you're working in film, if you're working in media, if you're working in the athletics as well too, perhaps you might be a taekwondo instructor, or perhaps you have your own studio where you help children in athletics. You would be a really good candidate to apply for permanent residence under the self-employed persons class. The idea is that you would be bringing your art, you would be bringing your work here and contributing to the greater cultural landscape for Canada. As long as you are self-sufficient and you are able to support yourself with the work that you've been doing, you most likely would be eligible for the self-employed persons class. In terms of the processing time, um, just bear with me, I'm going to check here. If you are accepted under the self-employed persons class, the processing time for your family will be, as of right now, we're looking at 41 months. So it seems a little bit longer than usual. I would say anywhere from 2 to 3 plus years for processing time with your family. First, we really have to start with submitting an application, painting a picture of what you do for work, perhaps any awards or nominations or recognition that you have as an artist, and also submitting a plan in terms of how you're going to take care of yourself in Canada, how you're going to set up your business as an artist. And from there, submitting your application to Canada, to the government, and then having it accepted into the self employed persons class. If you need a little bit more details on the program, we would be happy to speak with you. You can just book a consultation with us and we can go over your eligibility criteria. Can high school teachers with masters and having 5 years of experience apply for express entry directly? Yes, if you've got a master's degree and 5 years work experience, most likely you'd be eligible to apply for express entry. Absolutely. I am a PhD student in the United States. I get paid for my research. It is 20 hours a week job. Can I use this experience for PR application? The title of my post is graduate assistant, but the duties are like a mechanical engineer. Does my experience qualify as mechanical engineering experience? Yes, absolutely. If you are a graduate student, if you are completing a master's degree, if you're completing a PhD, some of your work experience may qualify as work experience. It's research experience. So certainly there is a very specific way that we capture this experience in the express entry profile. I know you're working part time, so that's absolutely fine for us. That does count um, for towards permanent residence. So absolutely, we do have a lot of masters and PhD students, and we have a lot of experience submitting the profiles for them. So yes. How likely is it to get invited with a low score? I have 341 CRS score. I'm already losing hope to get an invitation to apply. That's a really great question. I think it really depends on what you do for your employment, what your occupation is. Perhaps there might be other ways that we can look at to help you increase your score, or maybe other avenues that you quite haven't considered. There could be different public policy programs, there could be different avenues by way of work permit. First, and then seeing how we are able to make a recommendation to improve your chances to apply for permanent residence. Studying in Canada is also a really great option, especially if you feel like you have always wanted to go back to school or upskill your education. We could look at applying for programs in Canada just to um, bump up your score just a bit. Would I be eligible to work and live in Canada? I'm a 52-year-old truck driver. My wife is 34 years old, university student. We have 4 kids. That's great. Yes, absolutely. If you are a truck driver and you've got really good work experience, transport truck drivers are in high demand in Canada. Most will require some sort of job offer from an employer. So I would recommend reaching out to a Canadian employer and seeing if you are able to get some sort of employment in advance. However, depending on what your spouse has in terms of work experience, there may be other options for you and your family to relocate and immigrate to Canada there. Hi, I am a retired person. Am I able to apply? Um, yes, yeah, of course, you can apply to permanent residence in Canada. Again, we are looking at your past work experience. So, depending on what you did before being retired, especially if the work experience was within the last 10 years, we could look at you being able to immigrate to Canada based on that. So, yes. How do I submit my express entry application? Express entry process is typically 3 stages. I would say the first stage is document collection, making sure that you have everything that you need in order to start the process for express entry. We typically start off with your education and your English language skills or French language skills. From there, we submit your express entry profile. Now, our team is able to go over your personal profile with you. It's quite lengthy, it's quite detailed. We have to match up your job work experience with the correct classification of the codes, and then we submit your profile into the pool. Once you are in the pool, and if you are invited to apply, Canadian Immigration will then send out an invitation to you, and you have 60 days to submit your application, of which we will include everything about you, your past, your family, your background, in order for it to be reviewed and assessed by Canadian Immigration. And once everything is accepted and approved, then you and your family are able to relocate to Canada. Which ICT jobs are available in Canada? If you are referring to ICT, I think you mean an intercompany transfer. So that depends on which company you work at. If your company has a subsidiary branch or Canadian branch or another office in Canada, most likely most likely your employer may be able to transfer you under a work permit. From then on, I would probably take a look with your employer and see if there's any opportunities that we could use for you to be able to get a work permit. Following up on the research work experience, does my research experience make me eligible to apply as a mechanical engineering engineer for PMP? My PhD and research are on mechanical engineering. Let's see here. I think that question is very technical, and it really depends on the provincial nominee program we are looking at. For the most part, if you are a research assistant, there is a specific code for research assistants. If you have zero work experience as a mechanical engineer, for example, private industry or if you're employed as an employee, that might make it a little bit difficult for us to apply for targeted occupation programs. So it really depends on your personal situation. How can Visa Place assist with an existing application? Your EOR, which is your electronic acknowledgement of receipt, is August 13, 2018, and is still under background check. That's a great question. It depends on which program you submitted this for. However, if you submitted your application in 2018, that is quite some time ago. What we can do on our side is we can one, take a look into your personal profile. We could request immigration to provide a summary of your immigration case and see what the holdup is. Sometimes what we see is that immigration might just need a little bit of a poke. They need a little bit of a reminder saying, "Hey, this case is waiting and it's holding here. We've actually submitted everything to you already. We just need you to review it and make a decision." So there's actually quite a few things that we can do. Our legal team is able to take over your application as representative, follow up with immigration on your behalf. We can check what's going on, what the holdup process is, and send a follow up. And I think I'm going to take one more question. I'm in your mailing list. Kindly let me know when that TR2PR public policy comes about. I've been in Canada for 7 years as a temporary resident, currently have a work permit under an LMIA and working as a caregiver for over a year now. That's really great news. I think you've been in Canada for quite some time, and you may be eligible for a caregiver program. For example, the home child care provider program that I shared with you, or another caregiver program, depending if you had caregiving work experience prior to. Of course, our team will be sure to let you know as soon as any public policies or any new pathways come about. So stay tuned for that. And thanks for the question. Okay. I think we've got lots of great questions here. Thank you so much for everybody joining and everyone posting. I think there's been a lot of interest in terms of a lot of questions about your personal situation and things that we could do to help. Of course, our team here is always happy to support you in any way, whether that's providing a consultation, providing a very custom and detailed plan and pathway for you and your family to be able to immigrate to Canada and which programs you're eligible for. Or if you've got a case in process and you need a little bit of help, we can certainly help you there. Or even if you know which program you want to apply for and that you're eligible for, but you don't know where to start, we would be able to provide a full service from end to end to be able to support you and your family in terms of the application processing. So, for any information on that, I would direct everyone to our website. Take a look there. It's www.visaplace.com. Thanks so much for everyone joining today, and we hope to see you next time. Take care. Bye bye.